Well, first of all, what is publicity? And I think it's important to know what the definition of it is. It involves a third-party endorsement from a traditional media outlet, and it lends credibility and encourages the outlet to talk about you and your book, and researching the best media outlets for your book locally and nationally, and reaching the best audience for your book. When it comes to publicity and promoting yourself and your book, it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all. And so you definitely want to, I think we talked about this earlier, take a look at how you can take that message and customize it across platforms. So if there's a local community newspaper that would be appropriate for them to do a profile on you, that's great. And then if there's a radio station that is talking about some of the nationally trending topics that might relate to something to do with your book and you can go on as an expert, then that's a way to pitch them. And then there might be opportunities to offer to do bylines and to create content for some of the media that are out there. And read what some of the other authors are doing too. A lot of the other authors offer to do book reviews for authors, and they act as continuing experts in their field, what it is that they cover. So what you want to do is try to continue to build your audience, try to be as consistent as you can in promoting yourself and your brand and your book or series of books. And it's an evolution. As you get started, you'll find that it might be a little intimidating at first, and then as you find success along the way and you have a positive reaction to your message and what you're putting out there, it starts to build on itself and becomes easier, and then you become somebody that the media look to possibly as an expert, and you keep those relationships going so that they'll call on you to comment when they're doing stories that relate to something that you can add value to their story.
So I like to think about the question of where should a new author start with their publicity, framed slightly differently. I advise authors to think about when they should start with their publicity. The key is start earlier than you think you need to. Get your ducks in a row and get out there now. And what that means is create your digital media, social media platforms. So that's Facebook and Twitter. Have your author website built as soon as you know you have a pub date. And basically, begin to align the parts that you're going to use to promote your book and to seek reviews.
Really, the best approach for an indie author looking to plan a PR campaign is to first establish what their goals are. For example, we spoke with one author who said that they wanted their book to be read by every man, woman, and child in the world. It's a bit too broad. You need to narrow down who your audience is, who you're appealing to, who you're trying to target to buy your book and to read your book, and then work from there. Without a clear goal in mind, there's no way of really planning a campaign. From there, once you've identified your target audiences, you need to explore the best ways to reach out to those folks, whether it's through traditional media, the newspaper, radio, even television in some instances. Social media has become increasingly more popular, and establishing an online presence either through a blog or through the social media tools like Facebook and Twitter, LinkedIn, that type of thing. And once you've established that, then what you really need to do is get your messaging down so that you speak directly to your reader and really appeal to them and essentially make them want to purchase and read your book. Then you start your outreach with these outlets that you're looking at. Reaching out to the media has changed drastically in the last 10 to 15 years, really even in the last 5 years. I know when I started in public relations 12 years ago, we still snail mailed press releases to some outlets. We faxed press releases. We were just starting to get into emailing some releases. Now it's all about Twitter. Hey, in 140 characters, let me tell you my story. See if I can get your attention. So it's really understanding who your audience is when speaking to the media. Really, what is the media? Everybody's a reporter these days, whether you're a blogger or you're just the publishing reporter for the New York Times. And reaching out to those people and understanding the best way to reach out to each individual is extremely important. Once you've established that audience, that media that you want to reach out to, start small. I have countless numbers of authors, or I've had countless authors come to me and say, get me on Oprah. I mean, we know about the Oprah Book Club. We know how if you're on the Oprah Book Club, you're a bestseller the next day. It's very unlikely that a first-time author, I'd almost say it's impossible that a first-time author will be on Oprah's book club. She may do a couple dozen books a year. So you need to be realistic about it. Are you going to be in the New York Times? Probably not. Start small. Start with your local newspaper. We had one author that I'm aware of who also published with the self-publishing company iUniverse, who decided to publish a cookbook that her mother had handwritten for her about 30 years ago. And the cookbook was kind of in disrepair. It was starting to fall apart. So she wanted to publish this to give to her mother on Mother's Day. And it really was not with any intention of, hey, I'm going to go sell thousands of copies of this. It was just kind of a cool gift for her mom. They told the local newspaper about it, a little 20,000 circulation newspaper in Northern California. And the reporter thought, that's a nice human interest story, local story. So they did a little article on this woman publishing her mom's cookbook, giving it to her on Mother's Day. So I got a call from Meredith Vieira's producer at the Today Show, asking if this woman who had published her mother's book would want to be on the Today Show with her mother and with her daughter, the 3 generations that have used this advice that is contained in this cookbook. The Today Show appearance gave birth to more appearances on more national shows and local shows in the Northern California area, and it was all because of this little article in this little newspaper in Northern California that probably was not on their radar. So they could have spent 3 or 4 years or 5 years of the rest of their lives chasing Oprah down and the New York Times and all these other pie-in-the-sky ideas. But what they did is they started locally, they started small, and you just never know with the internet and with social media who's reading what or who's viewing what anymore and where that can go.
So a lot of people feel shy when it comes to publicizing themselves and their books. And I would say the thing to keep in mind is that you wrote the book because you felt that it was going to make a difference in somebody's life. And so in order to touch as many people as possible, you need to find them wherever they are. So it used to be that a reader might wait for a Sunday book review to decide what books they were going to read. Nowadays, they're waiting for information to feed through to their devices. So if you're able to be out there on social media, if you're able to volunteer to give talks at your local library or at a local school, if you make yourself available to them, then they're more likely to come across what you have to offer. And if you're working with a book publicist, just keep in mind that it's so difficult to get the attention of producers and editors. And so whatever sets you apart from other people who are out there speaking on this subject, that's information that you want to share. And as new developments happen in your life, book publicists love having another reason to make another contact, to follow up. So keep in touch with your book publicist. I feel like nowadays, after a book launch, you almost have a little more time, in a way, to keep at it as things change, because things change so quickly. So if you could help think like your publicist in terms of why would an editor be interested in this story now, that's all information that your publicist will put to good use.
So a multi-platform publicity campaign, as I look at it, is a campaign that has everything. It starts from the bottom up with the online presence, a website from either in another author website, like one that they started with, or a book site on their own, where they can have the buy links for retailers, they have articles, photos, everything to a profile on the best social network for them, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Tumblr, whatever is best for their market. And then traditional media. A big print review or feature in a major newspaper that's syndicated out across the country. This is on the national front. An interview on a television show, morning show, daytime, nighttime news, something like that. Radio, other than in New York City, we have found people really listen to the radio, and it can sell books. And so we really want to get people on the radio airwaves. Podcasts and internet radio, which is a relatively new way of spreading the word, but it serves the same purpose as traditional radio does. People are downloading and listening to podcasts. Then magazines, it's always good to be covered in weekly magazines, and then there are online components as well. So kind of I'm hitting a couple of the layers basically, but multi-layered is everywhere and not leaving one thing on one, itch unscratched, so to speak. And the local press, targeting a where an author's from, where they're going, a local market in the country that might be particularly interested in that topic. A lot of people turn to their local newspapers for things that are going to interest them on a day-to-day basis, so we can't forget about them either.
Every campaign looks different. Every author is different. If you're a brand new author, success is going to look completely different than if you're a little ways down the road. So for a brand new author, especially like if it's a fiction book, for example, success might look like 30 book reviews online. And the thought there is that those 30 book reviews, the next time someone writes a book, that person writes a book, there's 30 more reviews in addition to that. And so it's all about building off of what you did before. If you're a little farther down the road and maybe it's a nonfiction book, we want to see some good coverage in maybe some traditional extensions or online extensions of traditional media. So maybe not a Forbes the magazine, but a Forbes.com. But frankly, every campaign's different. Every author should have different goals. Some authors, it may not be to sell books, but instead to increase their speaking fees or to increase the amount they're speaking. So success really depends on the individual person, and it's important to really keep in mind that it's a journey. It's not a sprint. I always tell people it's a marathon, not a sprint. So that momentum is going to build over time, and you're not going to be J.K. Rowling overnight. That's a given.
Well, what we usually see is somebody might come to us with a rudimentary website and they've launched their social media platform. So they have a Twitter account, they have a Facebook fan page, and they don't really know how to utilize it. And so at that point, I believe that with some coaching, they can continue to handle their social media and let a publicist handle traditional media. That always seems to be a really nice breakdown of assignments, because with social media, you really want it coming from your voice. If you're blogging, you want it coming from your own voice. Same thing with tweets and Facebook posts. So we do that for clients occasionally, where we might be posting or tweeting on behalf of them. But if a client wants to help in their promotion and publicity, that's a really good area for us to train them on, and then say, okay, here's some examples, here's how we would do it, now go run with it. And then they let us handle the traditional media pitching, because most authors don't really know how to approach the media on behalf of themselves.